France countryside, and we're here for some more Jonathan Rowson and Seven Deadly Sins. And yeah, I wanted to basically make a video on this. It's not going to be as chaotic and as revolutionary as the last Rowson stream, but I still found it very interesting, and I think documenting my thoughts will help cement anything that I've learned from today and from reading Rowson. So yeah, I basically went to that same coffee shop as my first Rowson video, and I basically read on in this blinking chapter. Yo, Sapsara, what's up? And yeah, this next sub-chapter is basically on transformations of position. So if we remember, this chapter was called Blinking. And what is blinking? Blinking is basically when you blink and you miss the critical position, and by that point, it's too late. So yeah, we're continuing this topic and now talking about transformation. So a transformation is basically one type of position to another type of position, right? So there's actually one type of like so he calls like when talking about his transformation, he basically talks about like the signs, signals, and sensitivity to detecting a transformation or a critical moment, right? And we actually know of one type of transformation already, or at least me and all of my students, and that is Dorfman's assessment. So for anyone who doesn't know what Dorfman's assessment is about, I've got a cool video on YouTube that actually I used to help me make a life decision about moving to Loughborough or moving to London. And yeah, that was all about the Dorfman assessment. So you can understand it a bit more there. But in short, what the Dorfman assessment is basically it's a method to help guide you in a position. And let's say you've got a random position on the board and you're trying to decide how to continue. This Dorfman assessment will help determine whether you should play the position statically or dynamically. And this is very important information because you might need to play in one way, and if you miss this moment to play in that way, then it's too late and you lose, right? So actually, the following two examples which Rowson gives, it's very entertaining because you can actually solve these positions and understand this turning point by doing a Dorfman assessment. You know, Rowson doesn't refer to Dorfman at all, but it's kind of the same thing. It's like this critical moment, either you know you're in a static position and maybe you're statically worse and you need to play dynamically and you miss that chance and then it's too late, or maybe your position has improved statically to the max and you need to play dynamically and you miss this chance, or maybe the position is actually statically better and you need to play statically, but instead you play dynamically and you mess up your position, and yeah, there's a turning point in the game that's unfavorable to you, right? So this is these are all it's all linked to this turning point and key moments. Below 2000 rapid on leeches now. Oops, probably create an alt account, Sapsara, and train on that. Yeah, getting one-to-one lessons, exactly. That's what these small streams are all about. You don't understand 90% of the chats, but come here for good vibes in chat. Okay, I'm glad you're enjoying the vibes. So let's actually take a look at a game that Rowson gives. And yeah, this is a game between two club players from Edinburgh, which I assume where Rowson is from. And we have this game. So, okay, how am I going to do this now? My book is bending in ways that I don't want it to bend. Okay, so let's try this. So d4, knight of 6, c4, oh my god, e6, knight of 3, b6, and e3. He gives us interesting, saying this is an underrated system that is not so easy to play against, especially if you're seeing it for the first time. And yeah, in my mind, like, this is just a very solid system. Can't be anything wrong with it. So bishop d3, c5. Oh, I'm missing a bit of the board. Castles, bishop e7. Right, so we've got some kind of Queen's Indian type setup. For the record, instead of bishop e7, he gives the move g6 here, and this is actually playing like a reverse Reti, and something similar that I would probably play against this white setup, at least how I would have played back in the day. So he doesn't go g6, he goes bishop e7. And yeah, we then get, I'll try not to bend my book. We then get the move knight c3, castles, and here, yeah, a very nice move from white, d5. basically the point being is that you can't go. So after e takes and c takes in this position, black can't win the pawn because I mean they can play knight takes, but after knight takes bishop takes h7 check, king takes, and you pick up the bishop. Black has to play knight c6 not to lose the rook. And that position, basically, white's got a firm grip over the d5 square. Black will struggle to push d5, and black's king is weakened by the sack on h7. So material is equal, but white just has the better position. So in this position, black opts to go for a bad Benoni with d6, where black has basically played b6 and bishop b7, which is probably not ideal. And also the bishop on e7 should be on g7 on this long diagonal, right? But yeah, we're getting to an interesting point. So at this moment, get e4, knight d7, knight d2, a6, a4, it's a very typical Benoni style play, knight e5, bishop e2, and knight f d7, f4, knight g6, and knight c4, and queen b8. And it's interesting because at this moment, basically, Rowson suggests that this is a key moment. Also, welcome, Soleiman, to the stream. I haven't seen you here before. Welcome. Yeah, I'm still on holiday. I'll actually be flying back on the day that C3 Venom is released, and it's so much hype that, yeah, the course is coming out soon. But yeah, let me read what Rowson says. So in this position, he says, we've got the signs. So black has some clumsy pieces on vulnerable squares, knight on g6, bishop on b7, pawns on b6 and d6. The signal is that his last move looks somewhat awkward. Rooks are still not connected, queen decentralized. Then we got sensitivity. Counterplay is threatened. b5 is pending, because b5 is actually a very clever move, because in this position it looks like you can win the pawn, like pawn takes, knight takes, but the problem is that after b5, pawn takes. After pawn takes, you can't take the pawn because your rook is hanging on a1. So after b5, pawn takes, then white has to play rook takes a8, and then black can very cleverly take back with the bishop, and the queen is now defending b5. So very, very clever motif to get in the b5 push. So basically, yeah, if you're sensitive to the position, you realize that black is about to get counterplay of b5, then probably you need to act now. So this is that feeling, that sense of a critical moment, and feeling that okay, we need to act now. Otherwise, the position might go out of control. And actually, okay, I made this whole statement about Dorfman at the beginning, but let me see if I can actually try and make use of Dorfman here and understand if that means that white should actually play for some dynamic play in this position. So, okay, let's do a Dorfman assessment. So Dorfman assessment means understanding king safety, material, queen trade, and pawn structure. So in this position, king safety, it's tough to say. I mean, white's definitely got a space advantage on the king side, which means that they have potential to attack on that side, and the knight on g6 is kind of like more of a target than a useful defender. So I feel like in some ways black has the less safe king. That's my personal opinion. Sure, like the f4 pawn means the white king is a bit unsafe, but I'd say black's king is slightly less safe, I want to say. This is a tough one. And then material is equal. Queen's trading off favors black for sure, because they have space disadvantage, and yeah, without the queen, then I think black's king will be much safer, and yeah, I think black will very happily trade queens here. And pawn structure wise, it's actually tough to say who's got the worst pawn structure, because in a way, if black is getting in b5, actually this is working out pretty well for black. So in some ways, I mean, maybe it's my bias of being a Benoni player and actually liking the fact that black's pawn structure is a bit more flexible. Maybe we've got this queenside majority, right? Like white's got this e5 push, but this isn't. Yeah, I guess this is a dynamic use of the pawn structure, so it's an advantage as well. I guess it's just imbalance, right? So if we do a Dorfman assessment, we say black's king safety is worse, materials equal, queen trade better for black, and pawn structure is quite imbalanced, but maybe soon to be better for black if b5 can come in. So what does that mean? It's actually very unclear, right? Because if queen trade and pawn structure is better for black, let's say, and king safety is worse for black, it's actually maybe unclear that you should play dynamically. So I guess like in some ways, maybe the Dorfman assessment isn't enough to give you a clear indication of whether you can play statically here or dynamically. So from just doing those factors alone, maybe it might not be enough, but definitely looking at what Rowson was saying about the sign, signals, and sensitivity, like, yeah, if there's a sign that, okay, black's pieces are temporarily clumsy, black is about to break out of b5, this is probably the moment to do something. Now, in this position, white completely failed at this and played the move g3. And this was, just playing like a useful static move, which in my opinion isn't even that useful. And really they needed something more serious here. And basically what white should have done, I tried to stop and think in this position and try and find the move. So maybe you guys have some ideas as well. But the move that was recommended by Rowson is this move bishop g4. And I actually looked at this because I thought, okay, maybe this is actually some critical way to improve the position. But after bishop g4, black plays bishop c8 because the threat is right now to, if you defend the knight in any other way, they can take it, you take back, and you pick up the b6 pawn, right? So the only way to defend the knight and protect the b6 pawn is bishop c8. So bishop g4, bishop c8, and then what I looked at and what Rowson recommends is bishop takes knight, bishop takes back. And in that position, I just felt black is much better, right? Black is just traded a pair of pieces. Black has the bishop pair. Black even has a bishop on d7 supporting b5. But in that position, you can then play f5. And the point is f5 right now in this position is no good because there are two knights that can jump to e5 and only one knight controlling the square. But if you eliminate one of the knights first, then f5 is going to be strong because black no longer has this knight e5 move. Well, at least not really, right? The knight will take, the pawn will take, and the pawn structure gets ruined, right? So this is actually a very interesting dynamic way to proceed in the position, and actually necessary, because if black is able to get in b5, then they are basically reaching equality, and very dynamic equality, where it's anyone's game, and actually the Bologna player is going to thrive in these kind of positions where they get in their thematic break and they understand the resulting positions very well, right? So this was a really interesting moment, and basically white missed this and played this move g3. But yeah, it was this the moment? Oh no, this is in the next game where he talks about this. So to be honest, let me talk about this explanation that was on the next game, but it's very similar. So the two games that Rowson shows are basically very, very similar, where white takes a big space advantage and gets to this position where he needs to find this very dynamic, correct continuation in order to realize the advantage. And if he misses it, black is simply better. And this happened in the next game as well. White missed it, black went on to win, right? And I think this explanation can actually apply to this position as well. But yeah, he says black has less space, but plenty of capacity for its pieces, while white has lots of space and not enough pieces to cover it all. We might say that white has a huge castle but only a few soldiers, while black has the same number of soldiers and uses all the empty spaces in the castle as posts to attack the white army. Yeah, and then he goes on to some more specifics about the position. And okay, this isn't exactly the same, because here we can see black's position is actually not ideal. The pieces aren't as harmonized. Like in the other position, black had a lack of space, but all the pieces were very, very happy and went on to win because of this. But it kind of made me realize that this kind of position with black is exactly what I want. Like, not this one, but the next game, which, okay, it would require some time to set up. It actually comes from a Gurgenitzer Modern, which is even funnier, right? Because that's what I play. But the idea of basically giving yourself a bit less space, but being able to play, use the pieces within that limited space and actually use your opponent's space as striking points and ways to basically make them collapse. And it seems to me that this kind of style of play with the white pieces, right, this very ambitious d4 type play, where you're trying to basically, wipe the opponent off the board because you play with the space advantage and you find the correct way to continue. I hate this kind of chess. I really hate it, because what ends up happening is you get to a position like we see here, And you don't have time to play king h1, g3, or any bishop e3. You don't have time for these improving moves because black is already striking back and then you lose the advantage. So to me, these positions, no matter what the engine says, they're not easy to play at all. And I would rather play a position that I find easy to play, that maybe doesn't have as much of an engine advantage, compared to a position like this that, okay, maybe it's like +1 or something, but if you can't find this critical plan of bishop g4, bishop c8, bishop takes, and f5, then you're going to lose that advantage really quickly. And that's what I found when I played like this, like 1e4 opening in the past, and like, you know, tried to be really ambitious. I was putting hours and hours of work into like engine preparation and you know, chess mood study and all this stuff. Like, you know, it's all well and good getting these winning positions, but if you can't find the way to win it, and of course your opponents are going to deviate at some point from your preparation, this always will happen, right? So you need to be able to have the confidence that you'll be able to find these moves. And ultimately, some players are really good at this, some players are not. And for me personally, I don't find this easy. I would much prefer a position that I can kind of slow play, improve, you know, not get punished for missing this opportunity. Like, I will have many opportunities to take over, and I'm not in any rush. So yeah, I found this very interesting, like a reflection of my chess style, and I think it also reflects how I am in real life. Like, I really hate being pressured to do anything. If someone tells me to do something, I'm like, no, I'm my own boss. I'm going to do it exactly my way. So yeah, I feel like with these kind of very, very ambitious positions that you can get from 1d4 or 1e4, where you're really pushing for that advantage, yeah, you do need to spot that critical moment. And it's funny just reading these examples from Rowson, where he basically highlights the critical moment. And in both cases, one was a club player, one was a GM, but both cases they miss it. And ultimately, it's just not easy. It's just not easy. I find it so interesting that, you know, there's still such a strong advocacy for playing these main lines that have these amazing engine evaluations, when in reality, it's so difficult to play. Like, it's not easy to play at all. And yet people will advocate for them because, you know, at the end of the opening, sure, the engine is saying +1 and this is fantastic. And, you know, you can sell a course that way, right? You can say, okay, I've got you to +1, I've done my job. But have you really done your job? Have you really done your job if you're giving someone a position that they're just going to make a mistake in because it's so difficult to realize that +1 advantage, right? So it's much more important that you find out what type of player you are, you understand what type of style you are. And for me, I feel like I've understood that. I understand that I can't play these positions that I just showed. And I much prefer these positions from the black side, where I'm basically ready to exploit my opponent's kind of overextension and looseness in the position and just fight back, right? So I found that that's much better for me. And the great thing is I can even do this with the white pieces now. I can play 1c3 and I can get this kind of black style position where I'm the one fighting back, but it's even easier because now my opponents are trying to be ambitious with black a tempo down, which is just a dream, right? It's like they're even more loose, even more overextended, and I'm going to just fight back and crush you. So yeah, this is basically, I mean, I read, like, I don't know, a few pages. You can see, like, I annotated all over some really interesting points. But yeah, I mean, for me, the biggest take home is just like, yeah, this is exactly the kind of chess that I don't want to play. And yeah, like, if I can get positions that suit my style and I can play in that style and overcome these engine evaluations, or even, yeah, just play out the positions how an engine would play out these positions, this is the most important thing to me. Do you think you might be over negative about the kind of chess you can't play? I don't think I am, because I speak from experience. Like, I literally spent over a year and a half competing in tournaments every month, playing the style of chess which I'm now saying that I can't play. It's not impossible for me to play, and I have succeeded in playing the style in the past, but for me, it's very high pressure, it's very risky, and it's not suited to me. It's kind of like a fish out of water. Like, you know, the fish can evolve and learn to fly, but ultimately it's a fish, and, you know, it belongs in the water. So sure, I can make it work. I can put hours and hours of effort into making this work, but I think people naturally gravitate to certain ways of being. It's kind of sticking like a introverted person into an extroverted job and making them become extroverted. Like, I'm sure if they've got enough brains, if they've got enough social skills, if they've got enough ability, they can achieve it, right? They can do this extroverted job or become extroverted. But intrinsically, they know that they're introverted, and it's not, and it's just a upwards battle that you'll keep having to, work on. Like if you're doing this to yourself. So I don't think chess is any different. I really think style is a huge point. I mean, I read a very interesting comment on one of my recent videos about some Go players' proverbs about this, and the Go player is basically saying that actually you shouldn't let style. You shouldn't be a slave to your style, right? You should play the position more. And this is an advice that I've heard in chess as well. Like just play whatever position arises, and ultimately you have to, right? Like whatever position arises, you have to play the position. You can't just play it in your style. But I'm not recommending to always play your style no matter the position. I'm recommending to play the positions that lend itself to your style. So if you can push the game in ways that your style will then be the correct way to play, this is ultimately going to maximize your ability in chess. And this is it. Like as soon as you can work out like who are you, then you'll be able to find the right ways to play. And it's just like I don't know, understanding yourself more. Like when you're a kid, you don't know if you're an extrovert or an introvert. By the time you're an adult, you've probably worked that out, and that will help you deal with future scenarios where you either like will play towards your introvertedness or play towards your extrovertedness. And you can also live your life tailoring it more to an introverted lifestyle, right? You don't have to put yourself through extroverted situations if you know that yourself is going to excel in introverted situations, right? So this is basically the revelation that is one of my favorite revelations I've had in recent weeks. And basically this Rowson chapter is just emphasizing this. I know that's not his point. Like he's trying to show how to spot the key moments and how to do that, and of course that's very useful as well. And in my games, I'm not always going to be able to play towards my style. I'm going to need to play in other ways, and understanding this kind of trend sensitivity is very, very useful for me as a player as well. But it's just reassuring that I think I've really hit the nail on the head for me as a player. Where are you from? Also looking good, dude. Thank you, Nidesh. I am half Hong Konger, half British, and I'm currently in France. But yeah, I am. That is my heritage. Style, I have no style. Karpov, did he really say that? Because I mean, Karpov has a very distinct style, right? Like that's a load of rubbish. To prepare, you also have players like Keith Arkle who have explicitly designed every part of their repertoire around reaching certain endgames and outplaying people in exactly, right? And that is why Keith Arkle got the GM. I don't think Keith Arkle would get the GM had he just played 1e4 and just, played whichever move Engine said was best and whichever openings Engine says is most correct. Like, he's not going to get that, right? He's playing to his style. And that is why I named this YouTube video that. And yeah, I think if you need any more convincing, I don't know, just see my recent results with 1c3. Speaks for itself. My online results, my in-person results. And yeah, I wonder how many of you would also be a kind of similar kind of chess breakdown as me, like my kind of style. And if you are, then definitely C3 is going to be a decent choice for you. Actually, one player who I'll shout out right now is Sapsara, right? I mean, I've coached Sapsara in these Leicestershire group lessons, and I basically recommended as a black repertoire to play Alekhine. And you might think, oh, what am I doing suggesting Alekhine? Like, it's such a bad opening. But it's not. It's a proper opening that has been played, for many, many years, and there's a lot of theory, and it's even got modern day developments, right? You've got this, who's the guy who's playing it a lot? I've forgotten his name. Ukrainian, I think. I've forgotten the guy's name, but he's released a chessable course on it recently. But my point being is that Sapsara is a player who is definitely a reactive player. He's a player that basically the opponent, if he's the one playing that white side of the position I just showed, he would probably miss the key moment and mess it up and then lose. But if he was on the black side, he would find these resources and find this b5 and find a way to fight back, right? So to me, Sapsara is the most obvious case of a reactive player that I've seen. And I'm also a reactive player, but I think he's even more of an extreme example than me. And actually, that is where I think if he were to switch to 1c3 and play this reactive chess, especially since 1c3 is about getting this like stable foundation and then playing dynamically from there, I think it would suit him a lot. But who knows? We'll see if he checks it out. But yeah, Also, welcome to Space Lee. I didn't give you a shout out. Botnik, yes, thank you to I forgot. Alexander Botnik. Botnik is exactly who I'm talking about. But yeah, I hope you guys found that interesting, and you're welcome to leave in the comments after this video is published, like what you think your style is, and maybe I could give some recommendation as to what kind of positions you should be aiming for. But yeah, once you know your style, it becomes a lot easier, I think, especially for players like us who are not striving to be like GMs, right? Like if you're playing the GM and above, then probably this stylistic factor, you kind of need to just overcome it and basically play the most principled, correct, objectively best chess. But the lower the level, the more you're going to be able to succeed in pulling off this style aspect. And I think you'll be much happier as a chess player, right? Like we ask ourselves, like, what is the point of chess? Is it just to gain rating, or is it actually to enjoy yourself and play to the maximum of your capacity without going out of the way to transform yourself? It's like saying, like, let's say you're an introverted person and you realize that in this society that extroverted is being better. You then work every day to become an extroverted person, and okay, maybe you excel a bit more in life. But what's the point? If you yourself are an introvert and you know that in yourself, why not just become the best introvert for yourself? Like, why, like, I don't know, try and maximize your absolute rating given society's parameters? Like, screw it. Like, just be the best person for yourself. And if that means that you're capped at 2100 or 2300, so be it. Like, I think that's the better way to go. So this is my like my recommendation to play chess and to live life. And this is what I'm doing for myself as well. Like, I understood actually from a really young age kind of who I am, and basically I've just been living my life towards that, and every year I feel like I'm getting better and better at that, and I'm content, So all I need to do now is to do that for chess, and then I'm also going to reach my limit and reach my ceiling, which I think right now is not so bad. Like, I reckon like I could definitely get places. So my elo is 115. What's my style? Ashu, I think this conversation is probably a bit too extreme for you at this moment, but if you rewatch this in a year or two's time, I think it could be very beneficial. I'd say at this moment with an elo of 115, just master the basics and you'll go far. Like, watch some 10 years old John Bartholomew videos, drill a bunch of tactics, and just enjoy every aspect of chess. Just learn as much as you can, because the lower rating you are, the more there is to read and learn, and just make the most of it, because at some point you're going to reach a point where it feels like it's difficult to improve, and then you've got to start thinking about the topics that I'm talking about, right? Where does one read about these styles? Is there anywhere a list? There is a really brilliant flowchart that was released by chess.com. If you look up like flowchart opening chess.com, you might find this really cool flowchart of like there are a bunch of questions that say, are you this type of player, that type of player? And it basically leads to an opening that you should play. I don't think it's perfect. And I also think some openings are missed out, and there could be better questions, but that's the first thing that comes to my mind regarding this style point. But I don't think it's really written about. It's not really explained. And people, I mean, they kind of see this topic in the wrong way as well. Like, not everyone is also thinking of this topic like me. A lot of people just try and like maximize the max, which means maybe playing the most objectively correct openings. That is going to give you your maximum potential, but are you really going to get there? Not without a lot of hard work, which is just unrealistic. I mean, I'm probably one of the most hardworking chess players that I know, and even me, I accept that this is just too much hard work, and I'm one of the most. So I don't know. Good luck, good luck. So yeah, it's much more satisfying to become the best version of yourself. That's what it really is. Best chess version of yourself. Maybe that's actually a good chess title, and I should write a book about this. Like, become the best chess version of yourself, because that's really what I'm trying to advocate here, and that's gonna lead to the best chess life you're gonna have. Right, guys. I'm gonna call it a day. I'm also gonna probably watch France versus Spain because it's quite a vibe watching it in France and seeing the French rage over every little thing that goes wrong. And yeah, on that note, I think. Oh, final question from Surface Lee, then I'm gonna head off and go get some food before the match. Do you think there's a point where a player truly gets a hard stuck no matter how much work is put in? Not at all. Not at all. I mean, basically, saying what I'm saying, right? Let's say I understand my style perfectly. I play towards the maximum of my ceiling and I reach this maximum ceiling of my style, of my play, of what suits me best. I think that would be a hard stuck if I'm willing, if I'm continuing in this mindset. But there is always the decision that I could make where if I'm willing to, you know, be an introvert, not an extrovert, or be an extrovert, not an introvert, and go above and beyond what is naturally what suits you, then of course you can always go past that hard stuck and you can put 24 hours of work in a day and you will definitely improve and you will definitely make progress. But the level of grind will be unreal. I would buy a copy of How to Be the Best Chess Version of Yourself. Amazing, Suspacely. Okay. It's definitely something to think about for the future. I didn't know I would kind of draw these completely clear conclusions like I did in this video, but I think it's so obvious. I think it's so obvious that this is the way to go. At least for someone like me, this is what I want for myself. I don't want to be a miserable GM that has put all this hard work in, and then I get to that GM, I reach that, and then realize that actually this style is really difficult to maintain. And then after a couple of years of kind of retiring, I'm suddenly at the level of 2000 because, you know, I'm not able to maintain this level because it's not my natural ability. Like, these kind of scenarios would be like my worst nightmare. This would be terrible, right? So, yeah, I think this is the way to go, to be honest. I think hard stuck is so what's Josh saying? I think hard stuck is always relative to life circumstances. If I can only play 1 hour a week, all of a sudden, I simply won't improve. Independent of that, there's always hope to improve. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And yeah, I think on that note, I'll call it a day. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and thank you guys for tuning in. And yeah, 2 days to go until 1c3 random. I will quickly let you guys know that as well. I am going to be doing a 24-hour stream at 10 p.m. on July the 11th, so in 2 days. And this will all be about 1c3, and it's going to be very fun. So you're welcome to tune in, and there'll be some prizes as well, and all sorts. So this is going to be very fun. And yeah, I am just hyped to get this course released and market it and see how far we can take it. I think we can really make it go big. I'm optimistic. Okay, see you guys around. Adios.